thank you for joining me today. My friend has sent me 4 curtain panels, and the curtain panels have these on the back. They don't fit her rail. What she has up there is pinch pleats, so she's asked me to make these into pinch pleat curtains. Let's get on with it. Because they are pinch pleats, I have to stabilise them, and they're about 3 inches deep. I believe they're 50 wide. First of all, I'm going to cut one length of this of 50 inches, and then I'm going to cut them down to 3 inches, which is taking an inch off one side all the way along the length. It's a bit of a bind having to do this. These are ready-made curtains, so I have to work with what I've got. Now, what I need to do is remove these tabs and open up the heading of these curtains so that I can put the crinoline in the top. There is a set of stitching all the way along the top. I need that out as well. It will take a little minute to get everything done. That's that piece, and if I take this piece out as well, like this, on the top side I can just pull the threads like that and it comes out. On the bottom side I can't do it this way, there's too much thickness in the fabric, so I have to do that slightly differently. But all of this stitching has to come out. As you open the heading up like that, pop pins in various places along the way to stabilize the lining against the outside fabric. It's not really that much of a problem because you can more or less see where it went in, but the lining is a little bit wider than the outside fabric or the shawl fabric, so you just need to make sure that that stays where it's meant to be. I need to put this into the heading, and what I'm going to do is fold it along the fold line here, fold the bottom of the hem over there like that, but make sure that the top is tight, and then I'm going to pin that in, and I'm going to work the next section in, make sure that's underneath. The reason why I want this held into place is because usually your lining goes up and over the top of the crinoline. Pull that tight so it's firm, and then move your pin and put it into place. And I am going to do that all the way across the top here. I've cut the crinoline, or the paper, to 50 inches, and so far I've only had one that was actually 50 inches. The others all seem to be a little bit shy. Again, and into place. As I say, make sure the top is firm and then pin it. I've just come into this side and I had to cut this back just a little bit. I don't want it to be over the side there. Again, I'm going to make sure that there's a fold here, is level with the top, and then pull that into place. This comes over slightly, I want that in line. I'm going to pin here and then here. I'll just slot that in for now. So I've got my walking foot on, and I'm going to line this end up. There's a groove here, so I'm going to run the bottom of this hem alongside that groove. Now normally, before anybody thinks about this too much, normally I wouldn't have to do this because the curtain fabric would usually go almost up to the top on the other side, about an inch, along with the lining, so it would all be doubled over. Because this is a commercially made curtain panel, I have to do it slightly different. So I'm going to go forward and back and forward again. I'm going to pull that down a little bit and sew across. I don't have to keep them in, but I just did. As I go along, I'm going to pull the curtain fabric itself along with the fabric on top so that it all stays flat. As I move along, some of the lining has come down a little bit, so I'm going to push that up into place and move along like this to the other end. It should fit. Now as I come into this side, I'm going to make sure that both of these hems are in line. Pull that tight like that, adjust it where needed, and sew. As I get closer, I'm going to just make sure that's still in line. I don't want it pulling over too much. You don't want it like that, that looks terrible. You want it a little ways back, but not too far back. I will go forward and back over here to hold everything in place, just like I did at the beginning. I'm going to sew up either side here. Usually I would hand sew it, but seeing as these are pre-made, I'm not going to bother. Forward and back. Try to keep it even. You don't want it to be rolling too much. Now I'll do the other side. I'm going to measure in 1¼ inches from the end here. Usually it's 2 to 2½ inches off each end, and that is because you don't want your pleats to be right on the end, and usually these are curtains that cross over, so you want some kind of crossover between the two. Having done that, I'm going to assume that the curtains were about 50 inches, so now they're only 47 inches. I need 6 pleats, and usually they're 6 inches, which would be 6 sixes are 36, but I'm going to make them 5 because I want to have a little bit of fabric between the pleats. So there's my first pleat there. Because they're so small, I can do both ends at the same time. Here's my 5 inches, so that leaves me with, I'm going to say 3½ inches in between. I'm going to go just under. I'm not doing 3¼ that's a little bit too tight, and another 5 here, just over 3¼ here. What I often do is I work from either end, and the middle gaps on either side I will alter, because sometimes you've got a little bit more fabric left over or a little bit less, so I usually split the difference. 1, 2, 3. I'll put in my just under 3½ there. Now if these curtains were to be drawn, obviously I'd have a lot more fabric in them. You usually have 3½ times the width of your window for curtains that are going to be drawn, as a general rule. This is the third one on this side, and I have left 3 inches. That's not good. So I'm going to reduce this one to 3¼ like that, and then this one, move that to the 5. I'm going to reduce this one also to 3¼ I make the alteration to the middle ones because nobody's going to really notice anything that's caught up in the middle. My 5 there, and then I've got 3¼ here. So just by moving them an nth either side here, I've got 3 all of the same size, and either end is just 1/8 a bit of an inch wider. Nobody will ever see. Now you line your pleat up where your needle is. I often put a piece of tape here to mark where the end of the pleat is. I've got pictures on here, I'm going to use those as the markers. So remove those two. Make sure that the 2 top pieces are level. I'm going to hold on to these threads because they keep getting rather knotted and not very even at the top. Pop that underneath there like that, where your marker or tape is. Put the foot down, forward, back at the top. These are more open, so I'm only going to be sewing down 1¼ inches and then reverse. Now I'm doing it 1¼ inches because they'll open up enough at the bottom, but I need to have an inch down for where the hook goes in the back, and then I'll cut the ties off there, and I will go on to the next one. Do exactly the same. Fold it over, make sure the 2 tops are together, grab hold of those ties because they make quite a mess at the top of your curtain otherwise. Line it up with where you need to there, drop the foot, forward and back, and then down to 1¼ inches. I'm going to do that all the way across here. It won't take too long to put these in. I'm going to open that out like that so it's nice and flat. Pinch that together and push it down, and then pull that side and that side up to make my pinch pleat. Take your needle and put it through here. I'm going to use this. There's the first stitch with the knot on the inside. Fold that up and then bring your needle back through. It's an overstitch of about 1/4 inch there, and then back. You don't want to go over the front. The only time you go over the front is if you're going to put a button or something across the front here. Otherwise you don't. You just always go behind. So I'm going to overstitch it like 3 times, cast off, and then go on to the next one. And I'm going to go right the way down, out through here, and cut the thread. That's all I'm going to do all the way across. When you are putting the pleat on, just make sure that you are absolutely over the top of your seam there, and then pull both sides up. As long as they're even on top, that's all that matters. These are just time consuming and fiddly. And now I'll finish this one up. Thank you for joining me on this little project. They've actually come out quite well. By the time they've got the big rings behind them and they come out like that, they'll look quite pretty. If she finds these too narrow, I can always change them. I think she's going to be pleased with them. They're a little bit skimpier on the fronts than I want, but I think they'll be fine. They're so high up. for the majority of the time nobody's really going to notice them. They need to be ironed, but my friend has this really long counter, so by the time we've put a couple of towels on there, these will be ironed and hanging up and looking quite pretty. If you want to see more from me, please subscribe, hit the bell button, and a few thumbs up would be brilliant. And in the meantime, take care. See you later. Ciao.